Hello everyone, Casey here and welcome to the Baking Analyst channel. On this channel, we go through cryptocurrencies, economics, finance, with a focus on yield farming for now. So if that sounds interesting to you, do consider hitting the subscribe button and the like button. So today, this video was really meant to give an update on Harmony yield farming and what has been going on in the space, as well as talking about how I find new farms. I'm also going to be talking about some new farms on new blockchains, so if that's something you're interested in, do stick around. So the first thing to cover for today is that many of my friends ask, where on earth do I find all these new farms or all these new coins to ape into before APRs start going down? Well, one of the tools that I use a lot is this thing called vfat. As you can see here on vfat.tools, there's a whole list of blockchains right at the top of the page that you can select, and then once you select, for example, Harmony, you're able to see all the different farms that are available on that network. So once we select a blockchain to go into, we can then look at the different APRs in the farms. And for you to be able to look at the APRs on the farms, you need to be connected to the correct network. So for example, if I go into the OKEx farm and try to look at the APRs there, and I choose KSwap for example, it will tell me that I'm currently connected to the wrong network, and that I need to switch to the OKExChain mainnet network. So let's do that. Let's go to the Harmony farms instead, just for the sake of this tour. And if we go into, say, ViperSwap, currently not staking anything in ViperSwap for the time being. Snake month just ended, so unlocked APRs are a lot lower than before. It will tell you that it has found the pools, and then for each pool you can see what the APR is. Now these APRs of course are 95% locked for ViperSwap, but this might not be the case elsewhere. So this really is an add-on to the original strategy of trying to look for a farm that is a high enough APR so that you can put part of your capital into it to achieve your desired weighted average APR. And to do this, we can always look at browsing different blockchains for different farms. And once we've found a farm or a desired pool that pays a very high APR, or like over 90% at the moment, then we might want to look into doing more research on that particular farm. And then if all is good, let's say it's audited, it has a good team, it has been around for long, then you might consider moving some of your capital over in order to take advantage of those high APRs. So the next piece of news that we'll be covering on this video today is OKExChain. In our previous video, we covered the rise of the exchange chains, how KuCoin with its KCC and Crypto.com with its Crypto.org chain are coming up with EVM compatible solutions, allowing smart contracts to run on them. These smart contracts allow for yield farming to take place, and that's what we are interested in. One chain that has been relatively under the radar is OKExChain. It's relatively under the radar, at least for us Western audiences, but as we'll see later, it really has quite a bit of total value locked in already. So what is OKEx? OKEx is another cryptocurrency exchange. You can see they have all these coins listed, and they basically launched their chain and their dApps running on their EVM compatible chain, just like Binance Smart Chain, just like KuCoin Community Chain. We can take a look at vFat and we see that we have some candidates over here. And one of the projects that was most interesting, or that stood out the most to me, is this KSwap project. KSwap is an automated market maker and a DEX operating on the OKEx chain. If you load it, by default it comes in Chinese. Don't worry about this, just click the globe icon at the top and you can switch it back to English. So this platform is probably predominantly used by investors in China. So despite all the crackdown news we've been hearing, thinking that people in China simply don't invest in crypto at all probably is a big mistake, because if we look into the liquidity pools, we see that there's just 158 million locked up, and there are even more on other platforms like CherrySwap. This is even bigger than a lot of yield farms even on Harmony. So this definitely isn't some small project, and it isn't some unknown outfit. So what makes KSwap interesting apart from the fact that they have all these different farms? Well, first of all, they have some pretty interesting farms, such as Bitcoin Cash, you have your Litecoin pools, you have your Polkadot pools. All of these are coins that people generally want to hold. And then of course you have the OKT pools. OKT is a gas token. It's like BNB is on the Binance Smart Chain. And then you have all these blue chip pools like BTC ETH, USDT, BTC, and so on. On first sight, you might look at these APRs or APYs and think, these are APRs by the way, it's not APY, but one might look at these APYs and think that, well, this is not very high, is it? 64.75%. I mean, it is a blue chip coin-ish, it's Bitcoin Cash, but the APYs are not very high. Well, there's another part of this KSwap farming to be taken into consideration, and that is trading farming. This is a bit more complicated. We see that you earn rewards based on the trading volume that you make. So let's say if you switch back and forth between USDT and Bitcoin 10 times with $100, your volume becomes $1,000 and you're earning APY on that larger amount. So this allows you to actually ratchet up the amount of capital that is earning yield in this trading pool. However, once you withdraw your rewards, your volume resets back to zero. So that's something you need to take into account when using this mining pool. One other thing to take note is that these APYs are not accurate. These APYs are probably calculated based on how much you would get if you were to take a given amount and swap it in the DEX until it reaches zero or a negligible amount. Because remember, whenever you make a trade in the DEX, as we can see from this instance, we see that there is a swap fee, which is a 0.3%. So while you might think that it is a dominant strategy, for example, to swap as many times as possible, you can swap it 100 times and 100x your volume that's inside the pool. That's the amount of capital that's working for you earning those APYs. You have to take into account that when you do that, you're actually losing your initial capital. Your initial capital is going down by 0.3% every time you make that swap. And that's excluding the effects of slippage, which in this case is 0.01%, but if you're doing larger amounts, you may lose more through slippage. So I thought this was an interesting way of allowing people to leverage multiples of their capital and put that to work in a mining pool. But then you will also have to decide how often you want to withdraw all, or whether you just want to let this roll and get bigger and bigger. Like every week you swap it 10 times and make this number bigger. You will have to do some more in-depth calculations to determine whether that is worth it or not. And to calculate this, we actually need to look into the total volume, the block reward for each trading pool, the block reward for the liquidity mining pools, as well as the APYs of the liquidity mining pools. So after toying around with KSwap, I found that there is a pools allocation section in their Git book, and they tell you how much KST, or the native farm token, is being distributed to every pool. So this is like rewards per block for each given pool. And then, just for the sake of analysis and quantifying this whole farming on KSwap and whether it's worth it or not, I created this little spreadsheet. So you can enter the amount you deposited and then enter the number of times you swap it, and then you can find the yielding volume, or the amount that is generating yield in the trading pool, and then you need to enter your swap yield APR, which is basically a function of rewards per block and total swap volume. And how this is calculated is based on the ratios of reward per block to liquidity mining TVL, and trying to figure out proportionally what the APR would be if the swap volume is a given amount and the rewards were the same. So this is a more complex operation. Every time you make a swap, your capital gets multiplied by 0.997 because you lose 0.3% with each trade. And therefore, if you were to swap it 10 times, you actually get $986 in volume, but your liquidity farming amount has decreased to 96.8, meaning you've lost about 3%. So if you want to download the spreadsheets, I'll leave a link in the description below. Maybe if you look through these formulas, you will get a better idea what on earth is going on. But in essence, this APR is based on a reward to volume or total value locked ratio that is assigned to this particular trading pool. And then of course you have to take into account that every time you harvest your reward, the volume that you see in your trading mining pool goes to zero. Now this is very important because it means that potentially if you try to harvest it daily and swap it 10 times again and harvest it daily to compound it again, you actually end up making a loss because you're losing more to the trading fees than you're earning back from the yield. So interesting project. They also have staking pools, so you can just stake a token to earn their KST token. However, for most people, I would say this is a bit complex unless the APRs are very high, like 16,000. You see all these pools, 15,000. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily put a lot into this platform. And of course, there's a risk of holding your KST for a week. It could drop very far. But yeah, if you're interested in KSwap or any other farming opportunity on OKExChain, the other problem is that the only way to get into OKExChain is through their exchange. And to do this, you can go to their exchange and set up an account, and then you deposit some Cardano, for example, a Litecoin for low transaction fees, and then you swap it in the exchange for OKT, which is like a gas token, and then you can withdraw it to your MetaMask on the OKExChain network. So I have some OKT here to pay for gas fees. So if you're interested in using OKExChain, I've actually left a link in the description down below. You get $10 off your trading fees on this OKEx exchange. And if you purchase crypto through the OKEx exchange with a credit card or debit card, you actually get $10 in cash back in USDT. So that actually offsets any sales charges that you might incur if you're purchasing crypto, and you can withdraw this anywhere you want. So the final thing that I wanted to go through today was some Harmony 1 farming updates. As you might know from my ViperSwap review a few weeks ago, I was saying that APRs are very high on ViperSwap. A few weeks ago, we were going through this thing called Snake Month, which was a period of increased Viper token emissions or increased APRs that rewarded liquidity miners or yield farmers with more tokens per block, basically. And this actually ended around late July. Nowadays, it has ended and it is not running at as high APRs. It's now running at 4 Viper per block only. So if we take into account that only 5% of this is unlocked, our farming pools are getting about, let's say, 25 to 27% APR instead of what we were getting before, which is over 200 during Snake Month. And we're talking about unlocked rewards, because there's the possibility that, you know, the Viper tokens that are locked here will go down very far in value. And yes, it has, because when we made that video, this amount was worth like $1,300, but now it's only worth 600. So the locked balance is basically halved in value. That is a reason why I don't like looking at these APRs like a maxi and saying, okay, it's not 25%, it's 500%, you're still making 500%. No, because the APRs that you get are the APRs that you realize when you get to sell your Viper tokens. And who knows what's going to happen when they start unlocking. It might be even worse than this, to be honest. So what I've done is I've started to look for other farms elsewhere and enter Daikiri Finance. In the previous video, when I was talking about the Harmony 1 ecosystem, I didn't cover Daikiri Finance as much because liquidity was very low, meaning that if you were to swap your coins on this exchange, you'll be hit with high slippage. However, when compared to SushiSwap or ViperSwap, these APRs are looking more and more attractive. So 90% on BTC1 pools and over 130% on BSC ADA pools, and you have this Polkadot pool and the Link pools, which are both doing pretty high APRs, 230% and 140%. The reason why I am only recommending Daikiri Finance now is because prior to this, there was some, let's say, not exactly positive sentiment on Daikiri Finance on the Harmony 1 subreddit. There was also pretty much uncertainty on the liquidity in this pool and the fact that their synthetics, well, they're still not really pegging to Bitcoin. At that time, it didn't seem like a very promising thing to ape into. However, now they have also become the first farm on Harmony, well, apart from SushiSwap, that has been audited by Paladin. The fact that they're audited does not mean that this would prevent a rug pull altogether, but it does give developers an incentive not to rug pull because it costs them money to run this audit in the first place. When you stake your tokens in the Daikiri bar, you earn this token called Daiki. You can sell it anytime after your harvest lockup. So the harvest lockup, instead of 6 months like ViperSwap, is only 6 hours. So essentially you can do this every day, you can compound it every day, take out your Daiki, sell it into your desired token pair, and repeat the strategy that we mentioned in our previous video. So far, I've put parts of my SushiSwap holdings into Daikiri Finance, simply to take advantage of these APRs. These pools fit our criteria of having large cap coins that you wouldn't mind holding as an investment, and the fact that APRs are above my desired weighted average APR of, let's say, about 120%. So all in all, a pretty promising farm that you might consider looking into. However, one weakness, of course, is that liquidity is very low, which means that, let's say, if a whale comes in and deposits $1 million in this pool, this APR is going to nosedive because there simply aren't enough emissions to sustain these high APRs for a larger amount of total value locked. So I hope this has been an interesting and helpful video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.